Hi. Yeah, I haven't used a video thing in a while, so if I come across as a little bit awkward, that's has to do with that probably. Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, let's just get into it. Yeah. So, let me just look. What questions are what went well for this? Oh yeah. I guess before I start, um, I want to show you my little what's it called? Little artifact thingy. This is a game that I just bought uh, a couple of days ago. It's called Doom Eternal. I don't know if you guys have heard of that game. It's a very popular game. It just came out. And I think, why is that important for me to show you guys? Well, the thing about this game is that, like, if anybody looks at it, like watching you play it, you can look it up on YouTube. It just looks like chaos because it's just you. It's first person shooter, and there's all these like monsters around, and you're constantly running around and like shooting, and there's blood everywhere, and there's all these things going on, and so to the untrained eye, somebody who doesn't really know much about this game might think it's just chaotic. It's just makes no sense. It's just completely just like removed from what they're used to, and so it's easy to kind of judge the game for something that's very like a lot of people would think, oh, it's like it just seems like it's a mindless, violent game that has no real strategy in place. Um, but when you actually play it, you realize that there's a lot of levels to it. There's a lot of layers to it. So there's like you're constantly low on ammo or health. So in order to stay alive, in order to play through the game, you have to constantly be hitting different buttons and doing different things to get different sorts of resources. So for example, if you're low on health, you want to do something called a glory kill, which is basically you just go up to one of the bad guys and you just like rip them apart, and that gives you health points. And then if you're low on ammo, then you have to go to a bad guy and you have to chainsaw them, and that gives you more ammo. And so you're constantly trying to strategize, like, if I'm low on this, what do I have to do to get more of it? If I'm low on this other thing, what do I have to do to get more of that? And then on top of that, the whole level itself is constructed with a lot of layers to it. So there's different teleportation systems that kind of give you certain resources or put you at different angles and all that kind of stuff. So all in all, what I'm saying is that it's more than meets the eye. I think that whole idea of I think it kind of resonates with at least my experience with students in terms of if you look at it from a glance, something like as something that kids like to do, like TikTok for some reason, that's like a huge thing. You might see TikTok right off the glance as like without really looking into it, and you might think of it as like it's just another really life absorbing social media outlet that kids are just like doing for no reason, and um, it has no real benefit to students. Don't worry, that cough is from somebody else, nothing to do with COVID. Okay, but if you were to really look into it and really think about what TikTok is all about, I kind of did my own research on TikTok and realized that it's like this. It's actually this huge community where it's kind of a very positive thing. A lot of students, a lot of teenagers engage in TikTok as a way of like connecting with other people, and it's also a lot of fun because they're doing like all these like different kinds of dances for different kinds of songs, and there's different like trends. So certain songs will have like this dance in place, and you have to the challenge is to like copy the dance and know how to do it. And so of all the social media outlets, I think it's a lot more uh, socially or mentally healthier than Instagram, because Instagram might be really shallow and there's a lot of like that social comparison going on. With TikTok, it just seems like it's more just like you're really building a community and you're doing something that's actually kind of good for you, dancing and doing it with your friends and that kind of stuff. It's more of a benefit than it is a hindrance on your mental health. So that's why I brought the game out, because it's kind of it's about that whole thing about it might look one way when you're far removed from it, but when you give it a chance, it's actually kind of something that's a lot more respectable, I guess, right? Okay, anyway, so let's move into it. So what went well for you this year in the MT program in general? Well, my pacing and timing is a lot better. My first placement, my timing wasn't that great. I think I found that like my lessons went on for too long. So with this, my AT was also really chill. So he kind of made me feel like there wasn't much pressure. Like if something went on too long, it's okay. We'll figure it out how we're gonna do the next day. So on top of that, that's what I learned a lot too, is learning to improvise and learning to figure out um, how to kind of uh, you know think on the fly, because that's kind of important, especially when you're dealing with kids that I dealt with, which were it was an applied English class. So these students really didn't want to be there. So it's kind of hard to gauge like how long something's going to take. With these guys, it usually takes longer than it should. Like doing like a very small writing assignment would take the whole period, whereas I'm sure with like other students, more academically inclined students, they would be able to do it in like 10 minutes. So learning to improvise was another big one. Sorry, I'm just reading. Yeah, I think another thing that really went well is that because these students, you really had to pull to kind of get them to be engaged in what you're doing. That I think I found activities that were really helpful in kind of getting them interested. A lot of the activities included like kinesthetic movement, so a lot of it was like you had to like mix and match with different students and kind of figure out um, you have to like read your description and see if it matches with another student's description. And so any activity where it kind of enabled students to kind of move around, I found that they really enjoyed, and they really actually got into it. And from that, I guess just learning how to be more creative, I guess, in terms of planning your lessons. Sorry if it just got a little bit louder. I'm in the basement. There's the heater thing, so it's turned on for some reason. Anyways, just ignore it. I'm pretty sure you can still hear me. Another big one is mutual respect with students. So being able to develop this kind of respect with students, where it's like, hey, like I don't expect you to just give me your respect right away, but I do feel that I'm entitled to like your minimal amount of respect. So if you give me that, I'll give you back the respect that you guys deserve as well. Um, so there was a bit of a touch and go with one student where we had to figure out how could we reach a balance where we could both mutually respect each other. And I think at the end of the practicum, we kind of reached that. Okay, so moving on. What is something you learned about your research topic area? I learned that like phones could be a really huge distraction, but it really depends on who's using it. So kids that aren't really intrinsically motivated to do well in class, they will be really distracted by phones. So that was a huge issue with me trying to get students to do stuff. Was that like they just kept using their phones for recreational purposes, and so that was really hard. But I did notice that like the academically inclined kids, so kids in like grade 12 university, they'd be on their phones, but you can give them you can expect them to handle their phone use responsibly. So if they could be on their phones and playing games, but when it really came down to it, they're okay to put their phone away and pay attention. With the kids in the applied class, it was really harder to do that. They just constantly were on their phone. Um, and I did notice that boys and girls use social media differently. So boys tended to use social media, not social media, but tended to use their phones for playing games. For some reason, Uno is a big thing. I don't really know why. Um, while girls use it for social media, so things like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, that kind of stuff. Boys still use Snapchat and all that kind of stuff, but I've noticed that they use it qualitatively differently. And so it does fall in line with my theory that boys and girls engage in their cell phone use in different ways, and how that affects their own mental health and affects their ability to be a student and to be just a kid. I feel like there must be some sort of a difference, right? So what questions are you left now with your topic after you're completing the final research paper? It's fine. I'm not gonna die. Even if boys and girls use the internet phone for the same apps and games, yeah. So basically, just is there a qualitative difference in how they use it? Because if boys and girls use the internet and the phone for, even if they use it for the same apps and the same games, is there like a difference between how they engage with it? For example, maybe girls go on TikTok and they actually try to do all the dances, whereas guys, maybe they do different kinds of challenges where it's not so dancey, right? And so, what kind of uh, qualitative difference does that have on boys and girls? Even though they're using the same apps, I want to figure out, like, well, how are they using it differently? How are they engaging in these same apps in different ways? And then are those differences big enough to see like a gap in terms of how it affects boys and girls, right? What are any questions, comments, concerns you have about the research you will design and conduct next year? Well, the thing about that is that I'm actually planning on switching my research topic. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I have noticed that I think I want to focus on a topic that has more to do with student mental health, just because personally I've experienced a lot of mental health issues when I was going through high school, and I wish that I had the know-how and the resources that I do now in order to understand the mental health issues that I was going through in high school. So I think I might want to focus on that. And so I've noticed that in a lot of my classes, some of my students might have IEPs, and they're based on things like anxiety and social phobia. So I noticed a few students that were they were academically inclined to an extent, but like anytime there was like a group activity, they were like, I'm not going to do it. They're just like, not even a question. Like, even I asked them to like try to do it a little bit, maybe just walk around, you don't have to talk to anybody. They're very like sheltered, and not sheltered, sorry. They're very like, they put a wall up. And so I want to know, like, have those students been given enough access to really understand what they're going through? There is a social worker on staff at the school that I was in, and so I know that some of them go talk to her about certain, personal issues and personal things they're going through. I just don't know if that's enough, because I didn't have a social worker when I was in high school, but I did see a therapist when I was in high school, and I just kind of feel like there could have been more accessible, or there could have been better systems in place for me to really understand the kind of anxiety that I was experiencing at the time. Because looking back, I realized that like the therapists that I saw in high school were like not. It just wasn't enough for me to feel like I really could understand what I was going through. So yeah, figuring that out, and trying to see, what kind of resources do students nowadays have in terms of if they're going through something, if they're struggling with something, if they don't know what it is. Because a lot of mental health issues will come up in your early adolescence, just because it's a big time for you to. It's a big step. It's a big stage in life where you're figuring out who you are, you're figuring out what you like, what you don't like, you're figuring out your relationship with other people, you're figuring out who you want to be and who you don't want to be. And so there's a lot of stress that comes out with that. And so I think it's best if we have a sort of system in place where students that are dealing with those kinds of issues have resources to go to. And if they want to learn more, they can learn more on their own. I do feel like, at least when I was in high school and I was experiencing those things, the resources that I had available to me, they were there, but I wish that I had more guidance in order to continue pursuing what was the problem at the time, right? Because it took me like, at least 7 to 10 years to really figure out what my anxiety was all about and how it could be really fixed. Had I had the resources I do have now, then I would have been mint. I would have figured it out early, right, way before I graduated from high school, and I would have saved me like 10 more years of suffering. So that's kind of what I want to tackle on, right? And that's what I kind of want to look into. But yeah, that's it. I haven't been looking at the thing the entire time I was looking at it. So I don't even know what I look like. I just put the Word document in front of me because I don't like looking at myself like that. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing all well. Yeah, I'm not gonna see you guys for a long time, so that's gonna be a treat. Hope you guys are well. Again, if I was coughing, it's fine. I'm not gonna die. I don't have COVID. I think sometimes I just kind of like sleep, and when I sleep, it's like cold because my blanket. Why am I talking about this? Okay, bye. Have a good one, guys.